He's still the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. I remember when Elvis Presley died, I was preaching on the streets in Cleveland, Ohio, and somebody gave me the front page of the paper and said, "The King is dead." I'm glad mine's not only not dead, he's not even sick, and he don't even take vitamins. That's the Lord Jesus. And again, thank you for being here today. We were so honored you took time to come and be with us, and we hope that you'll be blessed as a result of it. I'm in Isaiah chapter number 1. Isaiah chapter number 1. I want to begin reading in verse number 1. The vision of Isaiah, the son of Emmaus, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. These were all kings of Judah during this time. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord hath spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. Now, some of you need to underline that. Because sometimes when you hear preachers, they beat people up because their kids didn't turn out right. And they put all the blame on the parent. But I just read to you in verse number 2, where God said, I have brought up children, and they have rebelled. So if God can have problems with his kids, you better believe you can have problems with yours and mine. Verse 3, the ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. That word knoweth means knowledge. It means to not be dumb. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. I'm going to preach on dumbasses sometime, according to this verse. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider. All sinful nation of people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters, they forsaken the Lord. They provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backward. Baptists not only believe in backsliding, bless God, most of them live in it. Verse number 5, why should you be stricken anymore? Ye will revolt more and more. Here's what he said about the nation of Israel. The whole head is sick. That means it's affected their thinking. The whole heart, it's faint, which means it affects their compassion. Here's what God said about them. From the sole of the foot even into the head, there's no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores. They've not been closed. In other words, they're not hiding them. Neither are they bound up, neither mollified with ointment. Because of all of this, in verse 7, your country is desolate. Your cities are burned with fire. Does that sound familiar to you? Your land strangers will devour in your presence. Send that to the border police. And it is desolate, and eventually it'll be overthrown by strangers. So today, when God was giving this analysis of Israel through the book of Isaiah, you understand Isaiah is a book of prophecy. There's 66 chapters in the book of Isaiah. Many refer to it as a miniature Bible. And when you read through the book of Isaiah, you find God indicting Israel for committing spiritual adultery with their willful sin and their rebellion against God's voice. When you read the book of Isaiah, it only contains 2 chapters, or 2 messages. One is the message of a stern warning and judgment. That's through the first 39 chapters. There's 39 chapters in the Old Testament. Then there is the voice of hope from the latter part of chapter 39 through chapter 66, which is 27 chapters, which there's that many chapters in the New Testament. And that's why they call Isaiah the miniature Bible. But in life, we as individuals face wounds and bruises and hurt, as God spoke about. But then there's a level that you military men will understand that we call mortal wounds. These are wounds that you encounter on the battlefield, and it's an injury that leaves you beyond hope and beyond healing, and it's fatal. Mortal wounds will kill you. Spiritually speaking, we can be wounded and recover. But there are some mortal wounds that we can experience that could be fatal and detrimental to our Christian lives and our walk with God. This can happen to us as a Christian. I meet Christians all the time that have been so hurt, so bruised, and so wounded and abused that they are now shipwrecked. They're a broken vessel. They're a castaway. They sit on a shelf and they live and they'll die in misery. It's possible for a Christian to have a mortal wound. It's possible for a church to have a mortal wound. All churches have problems. Where you have people, you have problems. The more people you have, the more problems you have. I know, I pastor crazy people. I can imagine what other pastors go through with larger churches than this. And it's just part of life. And churches, sometimes people get mad. They don't like what's going on. They get offended at the preacher. For whatever reason, they try to cause hurt to the church. Look, I don't have problems with you leaving here. Emmaus is not for everybody. I'm an edgy, rough street preacher that got saved out of the ghettos that just soon shoot you and stab you and preach to you. And that not everybody can fit in that mold. I understand that. And you're free to leave anytime you want, though I don't want you to. But it's a disgrace that you would go home after we've tried to love you and feed you and take care of you and get on Facebook and become a blooming cross-eyed idiot and start saying stuff about the very church that tried to minister to you when nobody else wanted you. So all churches go through hurt. But you have also seen churches go through mortal wounds where they've not recovered. You know how many empty churches are in this county for sale right now? Some of the largest churches in our county and the neighboring county have for sale signs in front of them because the church got so involved with hurting each other, being vindictive. Most of the time it's a power struggle over some pot-bellied pig deacon or some lizard-tongued Jezebel trying to control what the man of God says from the pulpit. And they get mad and they don't want to leave. They want to take everybody with them. And they hurt the church so much that it can't survive. It can't pay the bills. The pastor's depressed. His wife's suicidal. So they disband and they shut the church down. That is a disgrace to God. And it's a shame that Christians are that low down, sorry, distasteful, and dishonest. So my philosophy is, if you're not afraid to say it, I'm not afraid to tell it. We will vote you out. You won't have to leave. We'll vote you out. I'm not letting you corrupt this church. I'm not letting you infiltrate this church. You're not coming in here with your nonsense and sending our members letter and calling them on the phone and direct messaging them on Facebook and running this church down. We will call you name, vote you out, and throw your fat tail out the front door of this church. I'm not putting up with it. So a church can suffer a mortal wound, but a country can suffer mortal wounds as well. Are you aware of the fact that deep within the sands of time lie the foundations of countries and kingdoms that exist no more? They're gone because something fatally happened within the constitution of those people that allowed the wound to become mortal and to allow them to cease from existence. No matter what country you go to, they all have ruins of cities and kingdoms from days gone by that suffered mortal wounds that took them under. As God never allowed Israel to get by with their transgressions, as being a faithful and a balanced God, neither will he allow this country to be blessed while wallowing in the hog pens of wickedness and perversion. Might as well clap, because it's going to get a lot worse than this. There are 5 shots that are being fired at our country today that if we don't stop them and block them and retaliate, it'll bring our nation to the level of mortal wounds wherewith we will reach the point where we cannot recover. With that thought in mind, I'm preaching on wounded beyond recovery. I understand America's had her hard times. We've had our battles. We've had our disagreements. We've had our problems. But what is being aimed at us now will not hurt and cripple our land, Brother Glenn. What is being shot at us now will literally take away the America that you and I have known all the days of our life. What kind of preacher would I be to stand before my people and act like everything is all right when the very foundations of this nation are crumbling before our very eyes. I have a duty, I have an obligation, I have a calling, I have an anointing, and I'm going to tell you what thus saith the Lord concerning the mortal wounds that can take our country under. Now, this is not a new outline, and you know me, I don't preach messages more than once. But this one has been consistent to offend people, and I think it's time I pull it out again. So these are the 5 shots coming toward our country that, if we're not careful, will absolutely ruin America permanently. Number 1, sissy men. For several generations, the whole world system has sought to remove the manhood from the male gender. You remember the women's liberation rights that came out years ago? Remember the women liberals? We're just like men. We're as tough as men. We're as strong as men. We want to be equal with men. Now they're putting men in women's sports, and now the hags are screaming and crying. It's not fair to have men and women. Well, shut up, you old hag. You were the one back in the 60s before you were all wrinkled and tattooed up. You were the very ones that run your stinking lizard tongue saying you wanted everything to be equal. Am I preaching there yet? All the shows and movies that are being pumped on television always portrays the female as a loud, dominant figure, while the male is seen as soft and weak and fearful. There's an all-out attack to neuter the male gender. Stinking, low-down, sorry, cross-sided, perverted parents allowing their children to be cross-dressers and transgender and march in parades while waving their fag flags. That's child abuse. I said it's child abuse. To take these little boys and girls and dress them like the opposite sex and letting them have sex transplants and all this other bunch of mess. It ought to be against the law for somebody to have a kid and psychologically and physically mess them up when they're young. Boys are being raised only around dominant women with no male role model in their lives. I was talking to a football team the other day, and the coach came up to me last season and said, "Brother Kid, we always appreciate you coming out here and praying with us, but we won't have a football team starting next year." I said, "Brother, why? What has happened? Do you don't have the money or what's going on?" He said, "More of the boys want to be cheerleaders and mascots than they want to be football players." Now, I'm going to tell you fellas something, you hear me well. There ain't no young man in this church running around with a miniskirt on and pom-poms, jumping up and down, going to be a member of this church. I tell you that much. And again, God help you sorry parents that allow such nonsense to go on. And I'm not sure, I can't prove this, but I'm not sure that mixing all these vaccinations and giving them to our kids one at a time, all these vaccinations, sometimes as many as 8 at a time, being injected to the body of a 2-year-old boy is not robbing that young man of his testosterone needed to function properly as a junior male developing into his teenage and his adult years. And you can shout or pout, I'm going to tell it anyhow. There's something bad wrong when a kid's got to have 52 vaccinations before he can go to his first day of school. So I want to say to you men, bless God, quit messing up your kids. Get your boys out of the kitchen and put him out in the woods. Get him out of his lace and frills and put him in coveralls and work clothes. Get him away from the computer and teach him how to shoot a gun. Get him off the couch and put him on a four-wheeler. Get him off the sports field and bring him up in the house of God. Get him out of the bed and make him cut the grass and weed eat the yard. Get him off the porch and make him detail and watch the cars. Bless God, you sorry mamas. Get him out of ballet class and teach him how to fight and beat the hell out of somebody. Once in a while as parents, we need to say no to our kids. We've raised a generation that doesn't know what it feels like or experience for mom and dad to tell them no about anything and everything. Even if you can afford it or get it or answer that request, just for pretense, you ought to say no to teach our kids. You don't always get what you want, when you want it, where you want it, and somebody else paying for it. So I'm saying to all the men of this church, You bunch of panty-waist pussycats, start being dedicated examples and leaders in your home, and quit worrying about public approval and what everybody else says and what everybody else thinks. Get up in the morning, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm a man, and I'm going to act like a man. I'm going to walk like a man. I'm going to talk like a man. You bunch of panty-waist pussycats. No wonder your wife's so mean and dominant. You let her be that way. One fellow went home after I preached like this. He looked at his wife. He said, I got news. I'm the man of this house after hearing that message. He said, for 35 years, you old hag, you've called the shots in this house. And he said to me, so I looked at her and said, from now on, I'm running this place. I said, well, how did it go? He said, well, I didn't see her for 3 days. I said, what? He said, yeah, on the third day, I could open one eye just a little bit. Sissy men is a mortal wound that can take our country down. Number 2, I must hurry, strange women. Women have changed millenniums since I was a child. Just a few years ago, I remember when women wanted to be faithful to their husbands, dedicated to their children. They were respected in public. They were example of character. They were tireless workers. They never complained. Always the first to be willing to sacrifice. Focused with determination to make their family life the best that it possibly could be. Have you looked around at women lately? They're a little bit strange as far as I'm concerned. Maybe I'm a little old-fashioned, but that's okay. Today it seems like this generation of females are nothing more than selfish, miserable, cold, entitled, conceited, heartless, short-sighted, worldly consumed hags that knows nothing about natural and godly affection in a family. You know, there's some women you're not going to make happy. I don't give a flip what you do. They were born a hag, they were raised by hags, and they'll die a hag. And it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to live like that. I have women come to me and say, well, Brother Kid, I need to talk to you. Okay, what's wrong? Well, I cheated on my husband. Well, why did you cheat on your husband? Well, he works 2 jobs and he's never home, and I got lonely, and this guy, I know he don't have any teeth, and he's bald-headed, and he smells like a goat, but he cuts the grass and he's always friendly, and I gave him tea, and now I had sex with him. Because your husband's working 2 jobs, you cheat on him? The reason why he's working 2 jobs is he's not man enough to get that credit card out of your purse and tell you you're not spending everything I make every time you leave the house. That's why he's working 2 stinking jobs. And by the way, I don't give a flip if he works 4 jobs and lives on the moon. It's never right for you to be a whore and go around cheating on your husband. The Bible calls you a whore. I don't care what society calls you. I'm telling you what the Bible calls you. And then another one said, well, I cheat on my husband because he doesn't work as much as I think, and he lays around too much, and I think he's lazy, and I've lost respect, so I had an affair with another man. Let me tell you something, ladies. It is never right to point at somebody else and blame them because you played the harlot. Marriage is tough, and if you don't like it, stay out of it. Don't get started in the first place. That's why these 3 young men are smiling. Look how happy they are. Most women don't need children. You ladies don't need children. You young families, you don't need children. You need puppies. You don't want nothing to do with your children. You have nothing to do with your kids during the day. Somebody else is watching them. Somebody else is raising them. Somebody else will potty train them. Somebody else will get them off the bottle. Somebody else will teach your kids how to walk while you're out making your career. Somebody else is raising your kid. You don't need a kid. I'm going to tell you what a kid needs. A kid needs a mama to put him in his lap and feel that love and that security. A kid needs to see dad coming in from work with his lunchbox and sweat on his brow, putting the home back together and keeping all the bills paid. That's what children need to see. And so while you're out making your career where you can have your 9th car and your 3rd boat and your 5th four-wheeler, you got a kid that doesn't even know you. All you do is feed them supper, pump them up, and put them in bed at night. You're not a mama. You're a watch carrier. You're not even a decent nursery keeper because they have your kids more than you do, and somebody ought to say amen to what I'm preaching. You don't need children, you need a puppy. Job chapter 39 said women are like the ostrich. They lay their eggs in the wilderness and let somebody else raise them, only for the enemy to come by and stomp them and kill them. You know why children have no ties to their parents? Because when they were growing up, the parents had no tie to the children. You know why kids are so disrespectful to the parents? Because there was no love, there was no connection, there was no security, there was no communication there. Oh yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Your kids, bless God, don't need your $150 pair of Nikes. They need you to sit down and turn the television off and listen to them when they're hurting, and listen to them when they need to talk, and listen to them when they're developing in the young people. That's what kids are missing in their life. And it's our fault that we've allowed it to happen. Women have lost the spirit of meekness and modesty and holiness. I'm going to tell you right now, if you think this platform is filled up with a bunch of half-naked women that looks nothing more than a porn show, I'm going to tell you women, you're not getting up here with your britches so tight that if you got a quarter in the pocket, you can tell if it's heads or tails. You're not getting on this platform like that with the knees ripped out of your jeans and your breasts hanging out of your top and look like some kind of whore out of California. You're not getting on this platform. And I said it before, and I want to say it again. If you women can't wear a dress below your knees, get your tail off this platform. We'll get somebody else to sing in your place. And you men ain't getting up here like a bunch of will work for food bums either. Won't even cut your hair, look like a goat. You're not getting up here and singing for the glory of God, looking like you slept under a bridge for the last 3 weeks. You ought to clean up. You ought to dress up. You ought to freshen up. You ought to sing up. You ought to get spirit filled. You ought to want to love God. What's wrong with being modest? What's wrong with being clean? Let the world call us an oddball. They're the oddballs, bless God Almighty. You're not intimidating me because I don't have an earring on my tongue and 14 tattoos coming across my throat. You're not intimidating me because I don't wear women's shoes and got 4 necklaces on and 3 hairs hanging off my chest, super glued from the rear end of a German Shepherd. You're not intimidating me. I want to be holy. I want to be modest. I want to be clean. I want to be separated. I want to be dedicated. They have no discipline. Women have no discipline in their lives, no self-respect, no appreciation for themselves. I feel sorry for you young men that are looking for a wife that hadn't slept with half the county, tattooed up like a freak that ought to be in a circus show somewhere. And I'm not bringing up your past. I've got them. I'm just talking about young people now. You got your work cut out, buddy. If I was a young man and I'm dating, number 1, are you a girl? Number 2, have you always been a girl? Number 3, I want that naked baby picture of you laying on that fur rug, stark Reagan naked, to tell me you've always been a girl. You believe we're dealing with this bunch of nonsense? I'm going to tell you, you women are strange. You men are sissies. Number 3, spoiled children. The Bible declares in Proverbs 29, children left to themselves will bring their family to shame. We are now witnessing the results of a spoiled generation of loveless brats that know nothing about responsibility, work, sacrifice, or achievements in their own life. I'm telling you, I'm not being mean, man. I'm telling you, this generation is crazy. I saw a dude standing in a parking lot, probably 90-something degrees that day, teenage boy, he's on his phone, and I'm thinking, he had the trunk of his car up. So this kid's 19 years old, big guy. So I walk up to him, I say, hey man, you in trouble? I got some stuff, I can help you get your car started. He said, oh no, I'm not in trouble, nothing wrong. I'm waiting for my dad to come change the tire. I said, no wait, say that one more time to me. You 19 years old, you got a car, and you can't change a tire. He said, I don't have any idea. He said, I've read the manual, it doesn't make a lick of sense. We're talking about a car that had 4 lug nuts on it and a bicycle tire. And this 19-year-old boy, you know what? Look at me. You call me mean? I don't give a flip. If my 19-year-old boy called me and said, Daddy, I got a flat, shut up, walk home. If you're too big of a pansy that you can't break 4 lug nuts, walk home, baby. I ain't fixing nothing for you. Spoiled children. All they know how to do is receive, but they never know how to give and to help others. Certain words are vulgar to them, and it psychologically affects them. Words like get up, clean your room, work day. Oh, here's one that'll blow a fuse. No Xbox, we're having family day. You put them in the back seat and they start having convulsions. And you got to get them meds to calm them down because they're foaming at their mouth and their eyes are crossing and they're hyperventilating because you took their phone from them for 30 blessed minutes. Words like take a bath. Put on clean clothes. You teenage girls, sometimes you don't even know where you're at. You think you're ready for marriage. You can't even run a vacuum cleaner. You don't know how to wash clothes. You don't even know how to turn a dryer on. You don't know anything about cooking. You're nothing but a microwave mama. You don't know how to clean, iron. You couldn't sew a button on somebody, on clothes if somebody put a gun against your head. They won't even shave their legs and their underarms. They look like a gorilla when they come out of the bedroom. They don't use deodorant. They look like pigs. They smell like goats. They act like peacocks. And they walk like peacocks, they look like monkeys, and want to be treated like a queen. You're living in a dream world, honey. That's not going to happen. Spoiled children. I got 2 more. Can you handle it? I want to talk about sick politicians for just a minute, if I could. Can you believe we had a national convention in this country, and they gave free abortions and free sterilizations to men as part of the DNC National Convention? Are you kidding me? Killing babies and neutering men was supposed to be a gift at a national presidential convention? Politicians have turned their backs and a deaf ear to Israel. Now, instead of winning on vision, goals, and achievements, it's which candidate will give me the most free perks. When they persecute freedom lovers that have a difference and love the Constitution, that country's in trouble. When a vice president candidate offers women's personal items in a 4th grade boy's bathroom, that sucker needs run out of this country. He should not even be a citizen of the United States of America. That shows you how sick and perverted that crowd is. You try pushing that crap on my grandkids, I'll rip it off the wall and jam it down your ever-loving freaking throat. This is a bunch of nonsense, and you parents ought to stand up. If they ever start this mess in Kingsport and our county schools, you let me know. We'll parade against that crowd. We'll call the cops on them. We'll bring in the news. We'll protest. We'll preach. We'll pull our kids. We're going to let them know, you don't own our kids. Teach them. Don't indoctrinate them. When old-fashioned conviction is seen and voiced as an enemy of the government, we're in trouble. When the Bible is thrown out of schools and the flag is burned on the streets and towns suffer complete ruin at the hands of liberal leadership that applauds such nonsense, we're in trouble. When any form of government considers my vote as useless, vile, and vain, it's time to put them out of Washington and send them to Iraq and let them live the rest of their life, bless God, over there in the sand. When we're killing babies and saving hoot owls, and that's considered normal, we've lost our way as a nation. When a judicial system is used to silence the voice of those that oppose corruption, communism, and greed, it's time to take a stand and be heard like we've never been heard before. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a citizen of the United States of America, and I have a voice, and I have a vote, and I'm going to make myself known in every possible way that I can. Sick politicians. I must hurry and close. It all goes back to this one. Sorry, preachers. All the problems that I mentioned to you began and will end with gutless hirelings that call themselves preachers. They are dumb dogs, according to the Bible. They're unable to bark. They're sleeping watchmen, according to the Bible, that could care less about the people's safety nor their spirituality. We are training some preachers here to go out in the ministry. We have some visiting here today. I want to say to all you young preachers, get you a set of leather lungs. Get you some rhino hide, eagle's eyes, and bull's strength, and a heart for God's people, and preach without fear and without favor. The only thing that's going to turn America around, it's not going to be the Democrat, it's not going to be the Republicans, it's not going to be the independents. I believe the seed that could germinate and bring forth positive fruit to turn this nation back to God has got to start in the pulpits of churches across the United States of America. That is where a real change is going to start. But as long as we have a bunch of pussyfoot soft liberals that'll let the government tell them when they can have church and when they can't have church, and they'll let their governor tell them to shut the church down, and they'll let some mossy-backed, pug-nosed, good-for-nothing communist in Washington tell me that we can't gather on a Sunday morning and worship God, all hell's about to break out, ladies and gentlemen. They're not shutting this church down. As long as the liquor store's open, as long as the abortion clinic's open, you ain't shutting this church down. You bring the cops, you bring everything you got. We're going to have church on Sunday at Emmaus Church of Kingsport. And you bunch of soft soap, watered down, milk toast, good for nothing preachers, you ought to get out of the pulpit and give your church a chance to have revival and let a real man of God get up there. Somebody that'll slam his hand in the car door on Sunday morning, pour gunpowder on your cereal, call your mother-in-law and cuss her out, and get in the pulpit like nobody's saved but you. That's the kind of John the Baptist preaching we need in our churches. I'm talking where your eyes bulge out and the sweat pours down your face and you got saliva coming out of your mouth and you're breathing as hard as you can and you giving it everything you got, and the people of God are thankful that somebody loves them enough to stand in the gap and make up the hedge and thank God for a true preacher. Oh, God, send us revival in our pulpits. Now, look, I'm not stupid. I know some of you don't like this, but I preached this last week. I preached it this week. I'm going to preach it next week. You don't like it? There's dead churches down that side of the road, and there's dead churches down this side. But as long as I'm pastor, there ain't nobody telling me what I can preach. There's nobody putting a bridle in my mouth. As long as I'm in this book, you ought to be glad that I love you enough to tell you what the Bible says. Preachers are the number one problem in this country. Worried about salaries and crowds and pleasing a deacon board. God have mercy. Somebody asked me the other day, he said, did you know the word demon and deacon comes from the same Greek root word? I said, no, I have enough trouble with English. I try not to study other languages. But I tell you, as long as I'm pastor, I want to be transparent with you. I want to be accountable to you. My morals, my ethics, my bills, everything is laid out publicly with my staff. I have nothing to hide. But as long as I'm in this book, I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, there's not a family here big enough, there's not a wallet thick enough, and there's not a lizard-tongued Jezebel that's got a tongue long enough that's going to control me from this pulpit. You have my word. That'll never happen. And that's why you're here. And that's why our church is booming, because people are sick and tired of being sick and tired of the same old everywhere they go. So today, I think it would be unfair for us to leave here without praying. We've got to pray. We've got to pray for each other. It's tough out there, man. This world has stuff coming our way from directions we've never had come our way before. And some of this stuff can wound you to the point where you can't get back.